Kerygma Ventures exists to proclaim the essential, irreducible truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ through powerful events and dynamic teaching. We emphasize the availability of God's abundant grace, the simplicity of life in His plan, and the hope offered through His powerful promises. For nearly 50 years, Kerygma Ventures has heralded the life-giving truth of God's Word, helping thousands of people implement this transformative message into their practical daily living.
I'm a big checklist guy. In another life, I was a pilot in the Air Force, so always followed a checklist, and if you followed the checklist, things usually worked out right. So I tried to translate that into my life, and it doesn't work out right because you always have the next step in the checklist to get done. You know, Dudley, one time I was out there, put a mark up on the wall, an arrow up on the wall, and we were in the classroom. He just put a mark up on the wall, and they said, suppose that mark doesn't really exist, and he just takes it off. And that was like really impactful to me because I was like, oh, there's not something that I have to do to achieve that mark. It was actually already done for me. It's not really about what I do. It's about the relationship with Jesus Christ.
I hadn't talked to Dudley in a couple of months, and it was Dudley, and he said, the Lord's changing my ministry. I won't be preaching to tens of thousands of people anymore. I will be, he wants me to train leaders. He said, it's too late for me and you to be leaders, but we can train some. And I remember when he said that, something inside of me just leaped, and I said, man, I want to be a part of it, whatever it is. And so he hung up, and I said, well, what can I do to help you? And he said, buy me a ranch. And I said, okay, if the Lord give me $1 million, I'll buy you a ranch. And so I go back home and find out that 3 months later I was going to get a check made out to me for $1 million. Trying to decide which ranch we liked the best of the ones we'd seen. And Dudley said, don't you think whenever we see it, God will say that's it? I agreed with him. And we parked the car. It wasn't any roads, it was just a trail, and we walked to the bluff. And standing there, Dudley said, God's going to give us this ranch. And the real estate lady heard him and said, no, he's not. It ain't for sale. And I said, go back and offer him X number of dollars. And she called Dudley a couple of weeks. He said he wasn't going to sell it. So Dudley asked her who owned it, and she told him. And he said, this guy had been in Dudley's Buckaroo Bible study for 10 years or something. She said, tell him that Dudley Hall asked him to pray about it. Well, 2 weeks later, she called and he said he'd sell it. And that's how we wound up with the ranch. Then after we closed on it, my wife and I came out, Patty came, and her and Betsy graduated together from high school, and we sat out there on the bluff with our feet hanging over the rock and began to pray. And everybody that prayed for two things. They prayed for peace, and they prayed for God's presence to be here. And when Dudley asked the Lord to let His Spirit dwell here, a wind got up and started blowing. I looked over at Betsy, and her hair was just laid back. The wind was blowing so hard. And when Dudley said amen, the wind quit. Everybody that's ever walked in the front door of that lodge, some of the first words out of their mouth is, there's peace here.
"20 years ago, Tesoro Escondido Ranch was built to more effectively reach people with the gospel message. It has been an integral part of the ministry of Kerygma Ventures. Getting folks out of their normal environment, away from their homes, businesses, and distractions, is an essential part of deeply connecting with God. Here we like to say, if you come to a different place and experience a different pace, you can leave with a new perspective. Tesoro Escondido is designed just for this purpose. No matter where you go on the ranch, you are constantly aware of God's presence. The peace here penetrates your soul, and the teaching, community, worship, and activities nurture relationship with God and with others."
When I first came here, I was a young, recently married guy with very little life direction and a whole lot of baggage, a whole lot of issues. And I really did not understand that part of what God had done for me in the gospel is that He made me a son. And so really my story of being out on Tesoro Escondido Ranch is a story about a spiritual orphan discovering that he was really a son by grace. You know, what I've learned at Tesoro Escondido has changed the way that I raise my children. It has changed the way that I love my wife. It's changed how I work. I don't go to work working for man's approval. I go to work working for my Father as His partner on the earth. And I work better that way. My work is better that way.
Through the dynamic retreats and events held at Tesoro Escondido, Kerygma Ventures trains hundreds of people annually who go back to their families and back to their communities better equipped to lead and to love. Literally, thousands are affected by the transformation that takes place at the ranch. Tesoro Escondido Ranch is also an escape for pastors to come, to rest, and to rejuvenate. Here, everything slows down, and life's distractions are far away, making it easier to focus on God.
When you come to the ranch, it's like the perfect setting to let God do something because it's peaceful, it's joyful, and it's a place where I've been able to be honest with other people that what I'm going through with the Lord, other people are too, and it seems to fit together when you come and you're able to share what God's doing in your life. And it's just that kind of atmosphere always when I come here. I was just enveloped with love when I got here. And it was just encouraging to me to be with other women and with the same purpose. One of the things I absolutely love about the ranch is that when you get out here, you leave the hustle and bustle of our lives in a daily grind, and just because where we live, so much information is coming at us all the time. And here, it's quiet, it's peaceful, everybody has the same purpose. People come out here to seek God, and when you get people together that are all seeking God, there's no way God's not going to show up.
As Kerygma Ventures grows and expands, there are some needs for improvements and maintenance here at Tesoro Escondido. Being 20 years old, the ranch needs some upgrades and repairs. Our current accommodations for couples and families are very limited. Often, couples must stay on opposite sides of the bunkhouse during a marriage retreat. To solve this problem, we hope to build a new 6 to 8 room lodge that will be designed specifically for families and married couples. Located right next to the main lodge up on the bluff, the site for the new building will offer breathtaking views of the Brazos River. Our new building will be named Betsy's Place, as a memorial to honor Betsy Hall. Betsy's deep love for people and heart of hospitality is a big part of why we want to build this building. Betsy had a passion to strengthen marriages and families. We believe that Betsy's Place will be a part of strengthening, restoring, and transforming couples and ultimately entire communities with gospel truth.
So my first experience here was walking into a family who did life well, and they were living that life out in ministry together. And so I watched Betsy minister to a group of young men, cooking them food, serving them, and Dudley and Betsy and their children come along the table in the morning and spend time with Betsy and recap the day and just do life well, to the point that I really wanted that. So I spent my journey really leaning into Betsy and asking questions and actually taking what she said and putting it into use at home, because Dudley and Betsy made themselves available to me. And they made the people here so available to me to be able to first understand the gospel and really get clear that everything I do is from the position of already being blessed. People who don't know Christ, who come to my house and see home, and now they want to be a part of it, want to know what is different about us. So what I learned here, I used as a whole life-changing experience of how to implement that in my own life.
As we celebrate the 20-year anniversary of Tesoro Escondido, we are so grateful for all the generous individuals, families, and churches who have partnered with us in this ministry. It is because of your financial investment that we can equip churches and believers with tools for disciple making. Together, we can spread the life-changing message of the gospel where it's needed most.